It's December 16th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the impeachment trial process against the South Korean president. The Constitutional Court is convening a meeting of judges on Monday morning to discuss the timeline for handling the impeachment case, following President Yoon's failure to appear in front of prosecutors on Sunday, despite a summons. And following the suspension of Yoon's presidential power and duties, acting President Han Duck-soo took on the role and prioritized people's livelihoods and national security. He also spoke with U.S. President Joe Biden, staying in close touch with Seoul's key allies. Also over the weekend, Ukraine posted images and videos of dozens of Russian and North Korean troops killed in Kursk Oblast, though it's hard to tell if soldiers in the footage are actually North Korean. Acting President and Prime Minister Han Duck-soo spent his first 24 hours as interim head of state holding back-to-back meetings with cabinet ministers and politicians, and also having talks with U.S. President Joe Biden. Our Oh Soo-young starts us off.
Acting President Han Duck-soo has put people's livelihoods and national security at the forefront of his mission to stabilize South Korea's affairs, as President Yoon Suk-yeol now faces impeachment proceedings and insurrection charges. On Sunday, less than 24 hours after assuming executive duties, Acting President Han spoke with key political figures and US President Joe Biden. In a move to strengthen governance amid a strong political division in the country, Han met with National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik. Both committed to close collaboration between the government and parliament amid partisan differences, with both highlighting the urgent challenge of restoring global confidence in South Korea and reviving the domestic economy. Han said the government will work to bridge differences and he will move forward with humility and an open mind.
My foremost priority is to ensure the safety of the nation and the stability of the people's daily lives without disruption. The government is committed to maintaining trust with our allies, including the United States and Japan, strengthening our security posture and making every effort to advance all areas of state affairs, including diplomacy, economy and people's livelihoods, especially for those in need, and public safety.
The acting president also met with Kwon Song-dong, floor leader of the ruling People Power Party, who pledged to provide full support and cooperation as Han leads the country's cabinet. Kwon also called on Han to resume consultations between the ruling party and the government once the PPP overcomes its internal issues. There was no mention of whether they discussed Han's veto power over contentious bills proposed by the opposition at the National Assembly. Addressing South Korea's most crucial security partner, the acting president spoke with US President Joe Biden on the phone. Han assured Biden that all governance would strictly adhere to the Constitution and the law, and that Seoul will carry out foreign and security policies without disruption. He added that it is more critical than ever to solidify the South Korea-US combined defense posture amid North Korea's nuclear threat and its deepening collaboration with Russia. Biden expressed trust in South Korea's democracy, commending its resilience and pledging to work with Seoul to further develop their alliance and their trilateral cooperation with Japan. In a separate call with US Forces Korea Commander Paula Camara, Han expressed concerns over North Korea potentially engaging in military provocations amid South Korea's current domestic situation, highlighting ballistic missile launches and cyber attacks as viable threats. The commander reaffirmed the strong commitment of the US to the combined defense of South Korea, vowing to fulfill its duties to strengthen the capabilities of the combined forces. As Han leads a caretaker government over the months to come, he convened with all cabinet members and emphasized that moving forward, the government's actions will be guided strictly by the Constitution, the law and a vision for the future. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And the impeachment trial process is picking up speed, with the court's judges holding their first meeting on the case this morning. And their discussions include the timeline for a decision on the president's fate. Our Pei-eun-ji has more.
South Korea's Constitutional Court has 180 days to decide whether or not to remove Yoon from office. If the court removes Yoon, or if he resigns, a presidential election must be held within 60 days. Court justices began their first meeting on the matter at 10 a.m. Monday to decide on the scheduling of preparatory hearings and procedures for the examination of evidence. During the meeting, they're expected to pick 2 justices to oversee the evidence examination process and hold discussions on forming a legal review task force team composed of constitutional researchers. The presiding justices for the case will also be determined on Monday. The identity of the presiding justice is usually kept confidential, but it was disclosed in the case of former President Park Geun-hye's impeachment due to the significance of the matter. The Constitutional Court is typically composed of 9 justices, 3 designated by the President, 3 designated by the Supreme Court Chief, and 3 recommended by the Parliament. But amid political deadlock, the 3 seats that were supposed to be recommended by the National Assembly have been vacant since October, and the court currently has only 6 sitting justices. Under South Korea's constitution, at least 6 out of a total of 9 justices must agree in order for an impeached president to be ousted. Technically, 6 justices could be enough, but they'd all need to vote in favor. However, given the significance of the case, experts believe the court will be reluctant to make such a historic decision without a full bench. So rival parties are now speeding up efforts to fill the 3 vacancies. Meanwhile, Yoon did not comply with a summons to appear before prosecutors on Sunday, reportedly saying that his legal representation has not yet been finalized. He did not show up for questioning, defying an order from the special prosecution team handling an investigation into Yoon's martial law imposition, which asked him to appear at the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's office on Sunday morning. Prosecutors reportedly issue another summons on Monday. Heung-min, Arirang News.
And more key military officials were arrested on Sunday during the ongoing probe into the December 3rd martial law declaration. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
As the investigations into President Yoon's December 3rd martial law order continue, police on Sunday arrested both the current and former chiefs of the Defense Intelligence Command. The Korean National Police Agency's Special Investigation Team announced they detained the current commander, Major General Moon Sang-ho, and former chief Do Sang-won. Moon is suspected of sending his troops to the National Election Commission's office after President Yoon Suk-yeol declared emergency martial law. The police say as troops arrived at the NEC office just 2 minutes after Yoon's late-night announcement, Moon is suspected to have known about the martial law plans beforehand, or could have been a part of the planning process. No, on the other hand, is suspected of being part of the martial law planning process as a civilian, as he's believed to be a close aide to former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun. The 2 were arrested without a warrant, with police allowed 48 hours to question them while in detention. Prosecutors also sought an arrest warrant for the former martial law commander and suspended Army Chief of Staff General Park An-soo on Sunday. During a parliamentary session following the short-lived martial law, Park said he only learned of the martial law declaration through the televised address and said he was not responsible for being a part of the drafting process. He was suspended from his military duties last Thursday. Meanwhile, the police say some 1,500 troops were mobilized on December 3rd as part of the botched martial law declaration. They say soldiers from the Defense Ministry, the Army, the Capital Defense Command, the Army Special Warfare Command, the Defense Counterintelligence Command, and the Defense Intelligence Command were deployed. The National Office of Investigation's Special Investigation Team said 43 active soldiers, including the suspended Army Chief of Staff, Park, have been questioned. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
So attention now turns to the Constitutional Court, which must decide whether to dismiss Yoon from office or reject impeachment. We discussed the constitutional procedures and Yoon's political fate more with Professor Song Sin-an this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So what's the Constitutional Court's job now? I mean, what exactly will it examine and look into from now on?
Well, now that the president's powers is suspended and the impeachment motion to the Constitutional Court has been delivered, now the Constitutional Court has up to 180 days to review whether the impeachment was legally valid.
Right.
And what involves is that the both sides, National Assembly and the President Yoon Suk-yeol, will prepare for the showdown in the Constitutional Court and try to prove themselves whether the legality of the martial law or on the National Assembly side, the illegality and unconstitutionality of the actions taken by the President Yoon.
Well, key number here is 180 days. Professor Song, do you think it'll take full 180 days, do you think, to rule?
Well, if the past is our guide, we had President Roh Moo-hyun and the President Park Geun-hye facing the same kind of actions. President Roh Moo-hyun's case, it took 63 days, 7 hearings. President Park Geun-hye's case, 91 days, 17 hearings. So, and they depend on the complexity and the nature of the cases. So 2 to 3 months, I think that this case is simpler than the President Park Geun-hye's case. So if they put the priority on it, I think they can finish in 3 months.
Okay, well, we are still missing 3 judges to conduct hearings and decision, but theoretically speaking, that really shouldn't be a problem, right?
Right, but there are some doubts as to whether having less than 7 people, actually 7 is the number specified in law, but of course, Constitutional Court has ruled for themselves that the 6 is enough to go forward with deliberating the case. They're a little bit more key about whether the 6th member is enough to decide on a ruling. But I think this question is going to be pretty moot because the schedule has been already arranged to interview and have a confirmation hearing for 3 additional judges within this month. So expectation is that next month there will be whole en banc court, which means 9 justices on the bench.
Professor Song, let's say President Yoon does get dismissed from office, and now you said you're thinking maybe 2 to 3 months to for the court to rule on Yoon's fate. Now, does that mean we should expect a snap presidential election maybe around the springtime or before the summertime?
Well, we got to do some math. When the case is done, from that point, the law says you got to have the snap election in 60 days. So. If they finish in February or March, we're looking at kind of springtime election. But what that means is that by the action of the Constitutional Court, the impeachment is valid and the President Yoon Suk-yeol is permanently removed from the office.
Right. And well, let's say the court rejects the impeachment eventually, then will everything return to how it was before December 3rd? Well,
he will because the impeachment motion failed. I think that his coming back in full force in the president's office legally is entitled to his authority, but politically, I think the Korea will be getting deeper into division and also a very noisy season politically and on the streets as well. I think that he lost confidence from the people, starting from the low approval rating and to the impeachment motion. So I think that the forecast on that front is pretty murky and kind of scary as well.
Yeah, a lot to be stabilized in the coming months. Professor Song, thanks much for your insights. As always, we appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
In the meantime, the domestic stock market is already showing signs of recovery following Parliament's decision to impeach President Yoon over the weekend. In the first 15 minutes of trading, the benchmark Kospi index added around 10 points, or 0.43%, to reach around 2,500 points. And Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok on Monday morning addressed concerns about the country's economy and vowed to accelerate the implementation of key economic policies. He said the country will quickly implement policies such as those related to boosting the stock market and advancing the capital and foreign exchange markets, adding that the government also plans to continue efforts to maintain external credibility. Tottenham Hotspur's Heung-min scored once and assisted twice in Spurs' 5-0 win over Southampton on Sunday. Son scored his team's second goal in the Premier League fixture at St. Mary's Stadium with a left-foot shot in the 12th minute for his 5th league goal of the season and also 6th in all competitions. The South Korean international also added 2 assists in Spurs' 5-0 victory to bring his English Premier League assist total to 68. Now, that figure makes Son the new record holder for a league assist for a Tottenham player. And earlier this year, Son also became Tottenham's 5th highest all-time goal scorer in all competitions. The African Development Bank believes prospects are high for broader productive ventures between South Korea and the African continent, especially in light of an inaugural summit hosted by Seoul this past summer. Our Shin Ha-young had a chance to talk to its chief.
It's been a half a year since the Korea-Africa Summit, and the African Development Bank is looking forward to building on the outcomes of recent cooperation between the two sides. That's what President Akinwumi Adesina of the African Development Bank said during an interview at the Africa Investment Forum. Agreeing to launch a high-level dialogue on expanding cooperation in the supply chain of critical minerals was one of the key outcomes.
Africa shouldn't be exporting those as raw materials because that is the direct door to poverty. We need to make sure then that Africa is able to process, add value, and to these critical minerals and move up the value chain. Now, Korea, this is where Korea comes in. Korea is again supporting us through the Korea Trust Fund to do critical analysis and assessments of how we might be able to set up lithium-ion battery, precursor battery manufacturing plants in Africa.
In terms of agricultural development, along with technology transfer, South Korea's K-Rice Belt Initiative has been a perfect fit for the so-called REWARD program, a $650 million initiative by the AfDB to improve food security in West Africa.
Korea is also helping us on something very important, which is in helping with the use of drone technology for agriculture, and using those drones to be able to monitor temperature, to be able to monitor climate, whether it's moisture, to be able to also monitor pests and diseases. And so that technology transfer is happening a lot from Korea.
Meanwhile, ahead of Donald Trump's second term, with many countries closely watching his America First policies, President Adesina believes the partnership with the U.S., especially in critical minerals, will continue.
Africa is a great trading partner with the United States. President Biden went to Africa, paid his first visit to Africa, and went to Angola. And on the Lobito corridor, back to the issue of the critical minerals that you were saying. And so I expect that the partnership on critical metals will be big and continue with the United States. United States is our second largest contributor to the African Development Bank. And I believe that will continue and probably will be even much stronger under the new president.
Celebrating its 60th anniversary this year, the president reflected not only on the growth of the AfDB's capital, which evolved from an initial $250 million to $318 billion, but also on its impact on the continent's development.
If you ask me what has really changed with African Development Bank since 1960, I would say today we are at the center of Africa's development. In the last 7-8 years that we've been running these high fives in Africa, is that if we've impacted on 500 million people, from water to sanitation access, to transport access, to energy access, to food security and all of that, and private sector as well. So that's how the bank has become today.
He described the past 6 decades as phenomenal, adding that the needs of Africa are immense and that working in partnerships is crucial. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News, Rabat.
Now, let's take a look at the stories from around the world with our Kim Xiang. Good morning, Xiang.
Good morning, Dami.
So let's begin today with North Korean soldiers deployed over in Russia and its war against Ukraine. Now, what's the latest?
Yeah, so now a latest Ukrainian report claimed additional North Korean troops' activity in the Kursk region. Now, Ukrainian armed forces claimed they have killed over 20 North Korean soldiers in Russia's Kursk Oblast, with media outlet Ukrainska Pravda publishing images and a video clip of the bodies. A commander of Ukraine's aerial reconnaissance unit, known by the call sign Magyar, published a video on his Telegram channel on Sunday, claiming that many of the bodies shown in the clip are of North Korean soldiers, while other bodies belong to other members of Russian forces. Now, the quality of the footage is limited due to the low resolution of the drone camera used to capture it, making it difficult to confirm whether the bodies actually belong to North Korean forces or not. On Saturday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the Kremlin began deploying a noticeable number of North Korean troops to the Kursk region in Russian territory, where Ukrainian forces still control a number of settlements. According to previous statements by Ukrainian and US officials, some 11,000 North Korean troops have already been deployed in Russia. France's Indian Ocean territory of Mayotte was hit by Cyclone Chido on Saturday. Now, local officials say the death toll is likely to reach at least several hundred and possibly climb even into the thousands. Cyclone Chido, which Meteo France says is the strongest storm to hit Mayotte in over 90 years, struck the island with wind speeds of over 225 kilometers per hour, flattening houses and damaging government buildings and a hospital. French President Emmanuel Macron said that France will be sending 250 rescue workers, while France's Interior Minister said that he feared a heavy death toll as all makeshift homes have been completely destroyed. A week after Syrian Islamic rebel forces toppled the al-Assad regime, the new government is aiming for normalcy as it reopens schools and universities on Sunday. The transition, which has reportedly been surprisingly smooth so far, was met with a population excited with a new sense of freedom, while violence and looting have reportedly been contained to a minimum. However, Syria's economy is still in devastation, with widespread poverty and high levels of inflation and unemployment. Now, Syria's new government has been renewing diplomatic ties, with the UK announcing a roughly $63 million aid package to Syria on Sunday. The French capital, Paris, is now home to what the organizers claim is the world's biggest temporary indoor ice rink. It opened its doors to skaters on Saturday in time for the Christmas season. Situated in Paris's Grand Palais, which hosted events for this year's Summer Olympic Games, the indoor ice rink covers some 3,000 square meters, with an entry fee of €30 for adults and €18 for under 10s, rental ice skates included. Now, the Grand Palais ice rink will operate until January 8, 2025.
It's getting colder as we approach the end of the year, and bitterly cold air is set to make our morning commute tougher as the week goes on through Thursday. Stay covered up this week. Temperatures will dip below norms. Meanwhile, rain and snow are in the forecast from late this afternoon from the west of central regions, spreading to the rest of central areas by tonight. Snow could pile up to 5 centimeters, and snow is forecast for the capital area for the evening commute. Freezing air might cause slippery roads. Stay alert for slick roads tonight. It will stay sunny during the day in much of the country. Seoul could see a high of 4 degrees. Daegu, Gyeongju topping out at 7 degrees. Meanwhile, parts of the capital area and East Coast regions are under dry weather advisories. Now, Jeollado provinces see a further mix of rain and snow tomorrow. Jeju stays wet for most of the week. Meanwhile, this Saturday marks the winter solstice already, with a winter mix in the forecast for central regions and Jeollado. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for our Monday's edition of New Day at Arirang. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful start to the week.